I'm Gao Yuan. I'm a technology reporter at Bloomberg News. Sitting right beside me is Kaparna Kapoor, partner of the Boston Consulting Group. She leads BCG's AI practice in Singapore. She has more than 15 years of practical experience with large-scale AI-driven transformation projects in Asia-Pacific across financial institutions, telcos, retailers, and insurers. Welcome. Sitting next to her is Ziyong Zha, CEO of Carol. Ziyong drives the people, progress, technology transformation within Carol to ensure that the Southeast Asia's largest automotive marketplace remains at operational excellence and it continues to grow rapidly. He is focused on digitalization workflows, enabling automation and data-driven insights within the organization. And to the far right is Andrea Pisoni, head of AI at B Capital. Andrea leads the AI team with the objective of using data and artificial intelligence to improve B Capital's investment progress. Previously, Andrea served as the head of AI at the OCBC, which is a local bank, where he led the large-scale implementations of AI and machine learning across various banking sectors. Prior to that, his experience with the banks. Andrea works with AI-focused roles across real estate and consulting. So welcome, guys. I'm gonna start this session with a very light question. Last week, I joined a talk show, stand-up talk show with my wife in Singapore with Jerry Seinfeld, the great American entertainer. At one point, he was struggling off the challenges AI can bring to his profession as stand-up comedian. And at one point, he said this: AI isn't dumb enough to write the jokes I write every day. But strikes me a lot. When do you think I need to start buying from JokeGPT than Jerry Seinfeld?
I think there's a long way to go for that because, and I've been in the field for the last 15 years. I've seen it evolve from what we were, calling machine learning and data science to big data to AI and Gen AI and hopefully someday AGI. But I think it's still at a place where you get real value when humans and AI come together. So I think there's still some distance to go. And I read an interesting one, you mentioned this. Another interesting one was, I want AI to do my dishes and laundry so that I can do art and painting, right, and not the other way around, which I thought was quite interesting because when Sam Altman launched this, he thought this will first impact the blue-collar workers and not white-collar, and it literally went the other way. So I think no one can predict where it will go, and it hurts to say it as a data scientist that you can't predict a phenomena. Right. But I think there is still a way where there's a long time to go for JokeGPT.
That's it. Joe?
I think for JokeGPT, I think we need to do a lot of fine-tuning. I don't think we have enough jokes inside the large language models yet to understand that what is considered a good joke or a bad joke. So probably we should ask Jerry to start a company and do some fine-tuning there, and we can use JokeGPT.
Fantastic. Will you invest in any joke-making machines?
I mean, no comment about that, but I have to say, stand-up comedies maybe is one of those areas where humans will not be replaced. I mean, ChatGPT already can make amazing jokes, very creative, very witty jokes. But the reason why Seinfeld is funny is not just because the jokes themselves are funny, it's because of that human connection that the jokes are stemming from, right? Not just because of the creativity and the wittiness of the language of the jokes themselves.
That's a very good point. If someone is talking a joke about me, I would say, hey, this dude is funny. But if if a machine is talking a joke about me, I would say, what do you think you are, right? It's like, it's really, yes, I get it. It's like in the receiving end, what it matters. Okay, so let's go to the more serious questions. Let's start with Ziyong, maybe. Your company, Carol, is definitely the largest pre-loved, I like this word, pre-loved car trading platform. Can you tell? And then there's one friend who was saying this. They developed some technology that can detect the sound of engine before the sailors want to sell their cars, my friend coined this as a Shazam of car engine detection, right? Because they can detect the engine of the sun of the engine, and the condition of the car. Tell me about that and what else you are developing.
Yeah, sure. Maybe if you could just quickly pull on to my slides, just to share a little bit of the AI applications that we have in Karo. So by the way, I'm not the most qualified person in Karo to talk about AI. I have a chief scientist in Karo. We have a CTO in Karo. The nice thing about Karo is that we have a great bench of scientists, engineers. In fact, our CFO is also an engineer in Karo, right? So all of us, we are very tech driven. We understand what technology can bring to the business. So although we are in the used car business, we actually use AI in every aspect of our operations. So actually, we have a lot of AI tools that we have built internally. Whether it's the AI pricing for us to price what's the right price to buy or sell a car, in the whole entire inspection process of buying a car, we actually use computer vision to do inspection. You know, I was just sharing, we have 4,500 staff in Karo actually today, right? So actually every 10 minutes for 5 minutes that we save of a person's job actually amounts to a lot of savings on manpower and customer service improvement, right? So we have computer vision that help us detect issues of the car. As mentioned earlier also, we have the Shazam of car engine. We basically take a 10 to 20 seconds clip of the car engine and we can detect the make and model of the car. Not only so, right? Without shipping the car aside, we can tell whether a car engine is misfiring or the belt need to change, things like that, right? So these are things that we have been doing in Karo. Next slide, please. Just one more slide. So what's more interesting these days is that we actually have started to use Gen AI in terms of improving our day-to-day operations. We didn't use Gen AI in terms of customer service because we believe that the whole entire experience of car ownership still requires a human touch, right? As mentioned earlier, right? But what we do in terms of using Gen AI is to help us strengthen our own internal processes, right? As we always say, garbage in, garbage out, right? So how can we use Gen AI to strengthen processes, making sure our customer service teams are following SOP and things like that. So we used to have an audit team that goes through every communications that we have with customers. We easily have 8,000 phone calls and messages and exchanges with customers on a daily basis. On a monthly basis, this is like 50,000 new customers that we talk to, right? So you can imagine a team that is there needed just to make sure that people are following processes, right? But with Gen AI, we actually build our own internal tool, right? Now we audit 100% of all our engagement interaction with customers, right? Last week, right, we found incidents of our agents not following SOP, and we are able to rescue the customer's experience even before it goes to social media, right? So although it is a 0.0 something percent of all the engagement, right? The moment it goes to social media, it get blown out of proportion, right? So with Gen AI, we actually manages to capture all this communication, right, and arrest the problem even before it manifests. Yeah. Thanks for showing the slide. So these are things that we are trying to do right now internally within Karo. In fact, earlier Russell was sharing about the cost of tokens. I actually did the math. It's actually cheaper for me to do my OCR application using Gen AI than to run the servers myself, right? So there are a lot of things that we are doing these days, and we are trying to see, which model, which infra makes sense to augment what we are doing, give us more accurate results. So these are the things that we are building on the front line so that staff on the ground is able to reap the benefit of Gen AI.
Got it. Excellent. Andrea, at Big Capital, you guys are invested in AI companies, and can you give us some examples of your portfolio companies that are doing great in AI?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there have been a lot of lesson learned in the last 1 year in terms of AI, and I mean it's great to hear about Karo and Xeon because that's an example of AI done right. And I mean, Karo is one of our companies. So definitely very happy to hear that they are at the forefront and they are really embracing AI in the right way. And I say in the right way because again, if you look back at when ChatGPT first came out, for a while it looked like the answer to everything, right? And then overnight, every company had to become an AI company. No matter whether it made sense or not for that company to be an AI company, there was this kind of push to be AI driven, no matter whether it would actually help the business. And this kind of AI virtue signaling kind of created the breeding ground for, not for our portfolio company, but in the market in general, for, I would say, very low quality AI implementation in the enterprise. And I think we have seen now a lot of return to sanity, so to speak. And the companies that we see now are actually now finally implementing AI, starting from the business rather than starting from AI itself, right? I need to use the tool. How do I actually apply it to my company? The other way around, right? How can AI actually help my company itself? And I mean, basically every company that Big Capital is invested has an AI component. And again, Caro is one example. We invested in, for example, AI companies that play in around the ecosystem of AI as a whole, say Lambda Lab, for example, is a company that actually provides GPU liquidity to actually fuel the AI ecosystem. And it's the only, I would say, very happy to say, is cloud provider that has the NVIDIA InfiniBand accreditation. So it's the highest performance that you can get in terms of GPU cloud today in the moment globally. So again, not just the application layer, but the whole ecosystem as a whole. And we are benefiting from now this return to sanity and having real AI conversations with companies. And they are having real AI conversation with their customers. Because when ChatGPT came out, the customers themselves were pushed to be AI driven, no matter whether it made sense for them. So again, that created a breeding ground for low quality AI implementation on the customer side, right? Customers that had to show to their board of director or their management committee that they were doing AI, and the easy way out was just turning on an AI copilot and call it a day, right? And since now this is finally subsiding, we're actually having much better conversations. Our portfolio companies are able to have much better conversation with them.
You guys work closely with Big Capital. What would you tell those portfolio companies when they want to implement AI?
Essentially, what we have seen is there are three archetypes that we typically see our clients, both in the startup space as well as established corporates work through. We call it the deploy, reshape, and invent archetypes. And the reason why this resonates is when we talk about, 40% of companies are stuck in what we call deploy. Deploy is using GenAI in your day-to-day tasks, whether it is using it for your, coding assistance for tech teams, whether it is capturing minutes of meeting call summaries, etc. That really doesn't translate into real value. Reshape is where we have seen actually 40% of our clients work through or start through last year. I would say 2023 was the year of POCs. Some of the companies are still stuck in what we call POC hell. Some of them have come out of it. But if we talk about reshape archetype, it is essentially taking a function and reinventing it from end to end. Let us say we pick service transformation. So from your intelligent call routing to whether it is agent assist to voice bot, chat bot, everything across all channels. If you think of financial institutions across branch, contact centers, digital self-service platforms, so on and so forth. So that's the reshape, narrative. Invent is where I would say less than 10% of our client are. Globally, a few names that I can think of are the likes of L'Oreal, who have completely reinvented the business model and how they engage with customers using Beauty Genius, which is virtual try-on kind of stuff, on the back of a very successful unfair advantage that they'd built over the last sort of 10 years. So these are the three archetypes that I've seen. Now, if we talk about applications, I think the most powerful ones, the killer moonshot ones that you could think of are more around service, of course, but where traditional AI and generative AI come together. So think of personalization, where you had AI-driven recommendations, etc., across industries, across customer-facing industries. But when you talk about Gen AI, you are really able to scale it across channels with very quickly accelerated digital assets, but also human-assisted channels are where you are able to scale fast. And if I were to put a recipe to it, I would say it boils down to what we call 5 Ps. Potential, platform, policies, people, and operating model. And I've cheated in the last, P, which is operating model. Essentially, if you think of potential, it's imperative to focus on high impact, high feasibility use cases, but also considering risks. So which applications are you building are internal facing versus customer facing has a huge implication on which ones you would go after. But also which ones are where you're doing end-to-end functional transformation and not isolated siloed use cases, so to speak. The second one, platform, is important because with AI, GenAI, what has truly happened is it has accelerated the journey to cloud, especially for regulated industries like banks, insurers, etc., even telcos that were largely on-prem or on private cloud. So that journey has gotten accelerated. And partnerships. I think that is where truly I have seen a huge differentiation post ChatGPT, whether it is hyperscalers or even otherwise. Partners are the way to go. I think in terms of if you talk about policy, responsible AI governance, etc., which used to be an afterthought, now people are actually putting that in place because tech is moving faster than regulation. And people and operating model is key because fundamentally without this, things don't work. We always say 10% of the value comes from data, 20% from AI and technology, but 70% of it is really about business transformation, change management, how you integrate AI into the day-to-day sort of workflow. So those are some of the themes that we are seeing with our clients.
Great. We will touch on governance later if we have time, but I sense the urgency of some kind to implement AI into the business, right? Because maybe a year ago, when we were talking about generative AI, people were saying, okay, maybe like it's like 5 years later, I'll worry about that. But now it's like everybody is saying, okay, well, I need to do that right now. What's the urgency come from? Maybe Ziyong, you want to tackle that?
I think from a business standpoint, I think manpower cost definitely has crept up quite a lot, right? After COVID, right? When things gone back to normal, we operate in 7 markets, and 4,500 staff, you can understand that, OPEX growth is a question that we always ask ourselves, right? It's not to say that we do not want to, we want to pay our guys better and we want to, make sure that they keep up with their life, right? As inflation rate is still high, right? But I think what we need to do is to help them how to do more, right? So that as a company, right, together we become better. Right. So I think the urgency of making sure that we become even more sustainable as a business, right? That's drive one very big part of it, right? Second, I think what's very different fundamentally was actually we started the whole journey looking at GenAI more than 12 months ago, right? So it's not just this year that we started looking at GenAI, right? As was mentioned just now, I think previously, where GenAI 1 year ago, right? You're just looking at LLMs just able to understand text, right? And return back to you text. And then, Stable Diffusion is for images. So you have a lot of siloed models, right? That only deal with one aspect. But I think this year, what we have seen is an explosion of multimodal LLMs. In fact, right, the project that we talked about just now, the quality assurance bot that we built, we actually built it in 2 months, right? It was a collaboration between operations and with an engineer, and then a large part of the work actually going in is fine tuning and prompt engineering, right? And we got it out in 2 months, and the technology now allows us to move so much faster, right? That we see that it makes sense for us to invest a lot more this year versus last year. Yeah.
And judging from your experience with the portfolio companies, does the urgency come from within, or from the competition?
Well, I think the urgency comes from the fact that now AI is real, so to speak, right? It's not anymore that kind of unfulfilled promise of something that was going to come in the future and eventually solve all of your problems. Now AI can actually do a lot of the things that it couldn't do just, 1 year, 2 years, 2 years before. And when this kind of capability gets unlocked, it's really a race to stay in the same place, right? Like you're running on a treadmill And if you are not going to run fast enough, you're just going to fall off the treadmill and everyone else is just going to run past you. So, I mean, the fact that the technology now finally got to the point where we wanted to be for many, many years, it's really a catalyst for everyone to get there as soon as possible.
Yeah, got it. Cool. Next question is about Singapore. It's like a very localized question. I was new actually in Singapore. I relocated from China to Singapore in February, so just a few months. And during this few months, Tim Cook was here, and Satya Nadella was here, and a couple of other, Jason Wang was in the region. I was like, what the heck? They're not coming here for me, of course, but why do you think Singapore is becoming, or Southeast Asia at large, is becoming a hub that, every global tech giants are looking for, and what they are exactly looking for? Aparna?
Yeah, so I think it goes without saying that Singapore anyways was the financial or is the financial sort of capital around the region. Beyond that, a lot of tech talent. I think a lot of tech talent that is available here. The likes of Microsoft, AWS, Google, everyone's setting up their centers here, especially in AI, Gen AI capabilities here and stuff. But more importantly, I think a lot of impetus from the government. So we were just hearing about AI Singapore and how we are developing these language models that can address Southeast Asian languages, which some of these multimodal models are still not good at. They're good at like getting the transcription, but not really the sentiment, especially if you pick up languages like Thai and all. Yeah. So I think a lot of it is driven by that talent, but also a lot of push from the government to drive it with AI Singapore, with IMDA, a lot of these entities. And then the corporates, I think they're putting in huge money. So earlier in, you asked a question earlier on what is driving that race towards Gen AI and all. It's also because I think a lot of investments have gone behind in data and tech. And this is a way to get that ROI, because a lot of data now is becoming unstructured and multimodal. So a lot of what was not possible now has become possible. And largely that combined with, if you think of Singapore as a hub for Southeast Asia or ASEAN, people or talent is scarce in other markets. So with Gen AI, you can actually create superhumans out of humans. And that, I think, is one of the key aspects also why Singapore is well primed to do that. Because if you look at the adjacent markets, whether it is Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, etc., you would see that wherever you have across corporates, human-assisted channels, you can really use this to make your bottom 90% workforce as good as your top 10%.
Right, great. So is it a good thing or bad thing for your company? Because you have to pay more for talents if those companies are coming here in Singapore.
I think that's part and parcel of business, right? and hence earlier I mentioned that we have to continuously invest, right, in terms of automation, in terms of using AI to augment, make our process better, because that's the only way to compete, right? At the end of the day, we are businesses. We have to make sure that our business model is sustainable, right? And as a result, to compete for talent, we need to make sure that we take care of our house and make that in order.
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, my perspective is from someone who has spent the last almost 10 years building AI teams. I would say I'm very bullish on Singapore for three reasons, right? The first is again, on talent, I think the progress has been staggering. If you look back 5 years ago, if you were building an AI team 5 years ago, I think the consensus around was that actually the talent pool, the depth of the talent pool was the one thing holding Singapore back, right? This was this conception, and I don't know if it was well placed or misplaced, but everyone would think that the brightest talents were not going into technical fields, they were going into finance, investment banking, consulting, right? And that's changed dramatically, right? The quantity and the quality of talent in technical fields in Singapore in the last 3 years skyrocketed. And I mean, you have to give it to the educational institutions here, the university, to understand the need, creating courses and curricula specifically to fill that gap. And the foresight of the government actually then pushing and the envelope both in terms of investment and creating an ecosystem. I'd say Singapore also has a geopolitical advantage, right? You mentioned Jensen Huang came last year, and he told us that in quarter three, 15% of NVIDIA revenues were generated in Singapore. I mean, I don't have to come and tell you that Singaporean companies by themselves wouldn't be able to generate 15% of revenue of the third most valuable company in the world. So there is definitely a geopolitical advantage here in play that at least short to medium term plays to Singapore's strength. And finally, governance and government, right? Like the fact that the government here has an outspoken AI strategy, and they're putting in investment in securing infrastructure or initiatives such as AI Verify to create an ecosystem to all govern AI collaboratively with the community. I mean, definitely puts Singapore in a position to lead.
I was talking to a friend with OpenAI who said Singapore actually has the highest per capita of use of OpenAI usage across globe. Period. That's really surprised me. It's like, but if you think deeper, it makes sense, right? Singapore as a developed country, they have so many demands for this kind of technologies, and they can actually transform and maybe upgrade their industry, right? So it makes sense. This question goes to three of you as well. Can you give us some examples, best practices of like locally made AI applications that recently surprised you? Andrea, you don't have to say Carol because...
But why not?
Please.
I mean, I would have to say that the quality of AI here locally has been improving over time. If I had to pick one initiative, again, I'd go back into what EDB and the IMDA are doing in building the first Southeast Asian foundation model, Sea Lion. I think building a foundation model is an incredible endeavor. It's not simple. It's something that requires resources, talent, and time. And the fact that they are actually willing to take that upfront rather than just commission the hard bits to someone else and just be resource takers, right? Like model takers from abroad, to me is super inspiring. And it seems that the initiative is actually receiving some degree of success already. So I'm looking forward to see what this language model for Southeast Asia will be able to bring to the ecosystem.
So maybe not as a practitioner in this industry, do you see anything else exciting happening in this country?
Well, I mean, I'm not just limited to only Singapore, right? So I think that we have been looking at a lot of various companies, right? I would say not just for inspiration, but also partners to work with, right? So recently we have been talking to a lot of companies that are in the robotic space, right? Because we do service a lot of cars, right? We transact 15,000 cars a month, so you can imagine the amount of cars we have to wash, the number of cars that we have to spray paint, right? So we look at all sorts of different solutions, and I think what's very interesting for us that we are seeing is that AI is not just in the digital world, but also getting into the physical world, right? Even as simple as IoT enabled toolings, right? A screwdriver that knows how much torque or revolution that you have turned, right? Or which helps us to better quality control the kind of repairs that we can do in a workshop, right? I think there's a lot of this kind of companies that's coming up, and we want to see how we can work with them together so that we can achieve an end-to-end solution, right? As opposed to each AI solution being siloed.
Aparna?
Yeah, to me, I think the one that comes to mind is a bank that we are working with, and why that comes to mind is they've picked up different functions, whether it is wealth, consumer banking, institutional banking, tech, service, all of these, and across these, they're transforming that function into end. So, for example, if you look at wealth, they're building a virtual assistant for relationship manager across onboarding to KYC to actually preparing for client conversations to post-call servicing and all. And at the heart of this is the way they are building it, which I found was quite innovative. which is, think of it as a super brain, where you have all of these applications for wealth, RM, branch managers, contact center agents, et cetera, across sort of functions, working with an agent orchestrator. And that agent orchestrator essentially calls specific virtual assistants, which in turn tap into different data or metadata, both structured and unstructured. Why that is interesting is because that's the way this field is going. So now if you think of it, at the heart of this is reusable assets or archetypes, so that you're not creating tech debt along the way. And that I found quite interesting, that super brain, which calls its virtual assistants, which in turn call its own metadata, etc., or an ensemble of data and stuff like that. Another interesting thing with the same bank is how they are actually leveraging the combination of knowledge graphs and large language models. Because, every bank would say that we are the pioneers in structured data. But when you talk about relationships that exist between various unstructured data, it becomes super powerful. And that way the combination works really well. So those are some of the innovative ones, apart from what Andrea spoke about, CLAN, which I'm seeing in the region work quite well.
Yeah, that's a good example. And actually, my next question is actually built on top of this, which is, what do you think makes a great AI application at this moment? I'm not going to like a long-term trajectories, but right now, what kind of application do you think is the most profitable or most sustainable in the short term?
I would say, an AI application that is not just tech for tech, but built with users for users. So having product design and business come together when we talk about AI is quite pertinent. It's very easy to say, but trust me, humans are not used to interacting with AI systems. So you've built these set of wonderful tools, whether you call them virtual assistants, copilots, whatever. Right. But humans are not used to interacting with AI systems. So anything that actually integrates into their day-to-day sort of workflow, and changing the incentives with that, with smart nudges, etc., all of that, to change that way of working. So most companies that are actually AI first are now thinking how to use AI or Gen AI to completely transform the target operating model, which I think is a very novel way of thinking, because you're thinking how would the roles evolve 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, and are building towards that. And then balancing that ambition with a very pragmatic approach, like 100-day sort of waves kind of thing, is very important. It's very easy, deceptively easy, I would say, to build POCs these days, but very hard to build something which is scalable in production. So having that robust tech architecture at the core of it is another thing that firms do well. And last but not the least, like AI or Gen AI, whatever you use, it is not just tech transformation, it is end-to-end business transformation. So ensuring that, human in the loop is a key part of it, because while tech is evolving fast in this space, it is still not at a point we daily wake up and hear news about some chatbot gone wrong, etc. All of that. So a huge implication on the brands and all also. So making sure that everything has the right guardrails and all built in. So it's really like business, tech, and people coming together.
Got it. Cool. So do you want to take that?
Actually, I agree with Aparna. So for us, for Gen AI, actually, what we do is we actually not leading it out of the data science team that we have. It's actually leading out from the operations team. The reason is because we want to drive Gen AI usage from the very front line, right? Aparna mentioned just now, right? Humans are not built to use AI, right? I mean, sometimes it may sound kind of funny, whereby even though we give our staff an app, right, whereby they can click a few buttons and get the job done, right? Some of them still prefer to use paper and pen, right? There's a lot of perception on the ground that we have to change, right? Every time we launch a new application to the team, to the frontliners, to solve even a very basic problem, such as even taking photo of the document, right? So I think what we are doing here is to have the application built at the frontline for the frontliners, right? For them to appreciate and see the value, how this thing can actually help them in their day-to-day life, right? And eventually, once we have all these various, we call it Lego bricks in place, we or we call it our department GPT that we built inside Caro, right? Then we can chain them up all together to form an end-to-end process, right? In which I can govern the whole entire process of operations within Caro. So that's the strategy that we are going with right now, so that we could quickly identify use cases that we could actually operationalize on the ground, right? And then get this all out and then eventually tie them all in together. We don't think that it is a waterfall model where we come up with one very big project plan. This is the AI platform I'm going to build and then implement. It's going to be very difficult. So we're actually doing ground up inside Caro.
Right. Andrea, I want to tailor make this question slightly for you. How do you evaluate the return on investment of this technology, of AI technology applications?
So you want me to share B Capital secret
Yes.
investment techniques?
That's exactly what I was trying to do. Yeah.
I mean, jokes aside, right? I mean, even Russell was mentioning, right? Like whenever we look at an AI company, in the back of our head, there is this question that is this company gonna get rendered irrelevant in the next ChatGPT upgrade, right? So this is something that you have to be mindful of. And as Aparna was saying, you look at a company, you look at AI. Is AI something that is just tacked on as a nice to have to check a box and tell your investors that you are AI driven, or is it actually coherently helping the business case for that company, right? Another thing that we usually do is while there is a lot of attention in the application layer, so that is okay, how can the use of AI actually help transforming a business? There is a lot to be gained as an investor in the overall ecosystem, right? And understanding where actually you can get competitive advantage there. So, for example, we invested in an amazing company called Labelbox, and what Labelbox does is it helps some of the largest organizations in the world making their data AI ready, right? That is building these first-party AI-ready data sets that are becoming then your competitive advantage against your competitors. Because, face it, the models themselves are a commodity, right? Everyone can use the models. All the models are getting to a point where they're almost indistinguishable with each other, and they're reaching a diminishing marginal rate of return. So while we always think the model is the be-all, end-all, actually the ecosystem and those proprietary data sets become your real competitive advantage. And so by recognizing these and then going betting on the ecosystem rather than just on the application layer, you can get oversized return compared to just looking at the obvious.
Right, that's a really good answer. Thank you. And Zuyong, I think Andrea mentioned about data quality, right? So it's very essential for a company to develop their own AI technologies. I want to know, how does Caro improve the data quality?
Yeah, I think data quality starts from the source, right? So there's no way I can improve data quality if it's not properly entered at the very beginning. So I think the good thing about Caro is that we have been collecting data since the last 9 years that we have been running our company, right? So we have all the inspection reports, all the images, all the sounds that we collect of all the cars. We also know what is the incident rate, right, after selling the car, right? How many of them come back for servicing. So we actually have a lot of this information, right? The challenge of that we have is more of classifying all this information, right? Because I think that in the past, the tools that we have, right, we optimize for speed while we collect the information. The information sometimes come in maybe unstructured, right? Not as structured as I want it to be, right? So that is more of the kind of problem that we kind of face right now in Caro. But I think as iterations of the internal tools that we build, we're making that better, right? And also, as mentioned earlier, we're using GenAI to in our business processes, right, including OCR, to reduce the error rate, right, and double checking what is our teammates are actually putting into the system, right? So that in turn, hopefully, what we're gonna see in the next few years is even better and better, cleaner and cleaner data, and then we can do more with that, right? So that's the kind of strategy we're doing, right? That's why having GenAI to help power, even the smallest function at the front line, matters for us, because that is where usually the error happens, right?
Aparna, I want you to put some like governance and ethics flavor into this. How does the company tackle data quality / ethics problems?
I think interestingly, what happened with data quality is that it was always an afterthought. So data governance used to be largely just principles, playbooks, paper policies, and all that companies had. But now with AI, there's a clear focus because it's garbage in, garbage out, right? And now with GenAI, you specifically see the sources, citation, and all. And to build user trust, you often have to mention what is the cutoff date of the data or quality of data, etc. All of that, whether it is risk scores or something else. And that really means you need to fix it across 3 axes, essentially. One is it's driven by ownership. Who owns the data? So having the right sort of data stewards, not just from a tech side, but business side, taking ownership of it, because a lot of it is metadata labeling and stuff. The second thing is beyond having the right set of principles or policies or playbooks, actually having tools. And today you have wonderful tools, not just in data quality checks, but also in whether you talk about reducing hallucinations when you talk about GenAI applications, or managing bias, handling data privacy, security, etc. All of that. So ensuring that you have the right set of tools across your platform, across your use case lifecycle, that I think is the second sort of pillar. The third is what I would say, you really can't manage what you don't measure. So whether you talk about data quality checks, fill rates, coverage, accuracy, etc., or deviation month on month, trends, etc., all of that, I think having that view of where are the hotspots. So if you think of the classic 80-20 principle, what is that 20% of the data that is driving 80% of the value, and then going domain by domain to at least fix those first, not a big bang sort of approach. I think those 3 are what I've seen work really well when it comes to managing data quality.
Right, got it, cool. We still got some time, but before I open the floor for questions, I do want to play a little game to indulge me with this. So I want you to imagine, I will give you some industries, and you can give me answers about how do you think this business, this sector, is a profitable AI business. If you look at the sub-sectors, they are definitely something that is profitable. But in general, so I just want to give the audience an idea what is immediately is happening, is making profit, is a good business, and what should be played as a long run game. So the first one is healthcare. Is it like immediate profitability or long run?
I'd say healthcare is a slightly longer run. I mean, there are clear applications of AI in healthcare. The biggest one, societal benefit-wise, is protein folding for medicine discovery. And I mean, Big Capital heavily invests in health tech companies, and we heavily invest in AI health tech companies. So we do believe that this will bring a path to profitability. There are definitely medical trials that you have to go through, so that's why it's a little bit of a longer play, but definitely it will be one of those sectors when then AI will make a big difference.
Okay, cool. Finance. Aparna, I think
Finance,
your clients
I work a lot in, I work a lot in the space, and so I would have some bias, if I may say so, but I think that's immediate benefit. Because there are too many white spaces, too many opportunities and all. So anything that you do will either move efficiency or effectiveness, one of the two, whether it is productivity or the growth aspect of it. So yeah.
How about retail?
I think it's immediate. I think that there's a lot of things that we can do in using GenAI to improve customer service, right? We also can use it to do better targeting, right? I think a lot of these use cases are use cases that we can actually see almost in the next 1 or 2 years. And I think that would help the retailers immensely, right? So I think, versus the other 2 verticals, I think that this one is very, very clear cut.
Right.
Yeah.
Manufacturing?
I think manufacturing is a place where a lot of digitization is yet to happen. And so the immediate benefit would be a lot of that analog data converted into digital, in my mind. I think that is the number one thing that we are seeing. Also, when you talk about, inspections, etc., using computer vision and all, that that part, we're talking about precision drilling, all of those things. I think manufacturing, is a place where honestly the first building block or foundational element has to be built first before it really turns into value. But the good thing in manufacturing is, unlike other industries like you pick retail, telco, or even banking, the margins are going to be huge. If you fix that, it's literally like 70 million, 100 million worth of ROI.
Right. How about transportation and logistics?
I mean, we do have a logistics and transportation company called NinjaVan in our portfolio, and they already heavily leverage AI to optimize their travel time, the delivery service. So definitely immediate.
Energy?
Energy is somewhere where we are seeing a lot of benefits as well, both in, if you talk about trading, upstream value optimization, I think those two areas, as well as when you talk about, inspection driven by computer vision as well. So I think energy is an area where there's very clear value, at least with AI.
Okay. How about agriculture?
Agriculture.
I don't think you can find experts in agriculture here. But
Crop.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have been using AI for agriculture as well for a long time, like satellite imagery to understand the health of forestation area and soil fertility. So there is definitely a lot of AI capabilities there, not necessarily Gen AI.
Yeah.
Right? Like we shouldn't forget that there is a lot of traditional AI that is still very well and good and doesn't have to be discarded just because there is a new shiny toy in town.
Great. Last but not least, entertainment.
I was at an event last month, right? And there was this Chinese company that demoed, in real time, the rendering of a virtual avatar of a person canoeing, right, in one of the national park and introducing the national park, like as though it was a live stream, right? So there is a lot of use cases that companies are developing, especially around social commerce, using Gen AI, replacing real humans, using virtual avatars to sell to customers.
Right.
Yeah, so entertainment is definitely a use case where Gen AI is getting very popular. And not forgetting Japan. Japan has a huge user base of fans, right, who idolize virtual avatars, right?
Right.
So the market already exists.
So Jerry Seinfeld could lose his job. Okay. Okay, that's the end for this session, and thanks for your participation, and thanks for the great panelists here. Thank you.